Oklahoma City. It has been my home for virtually all of my 49 years. It's also the capital for the state of Oklahoma. The story I'm going to share took place in 2014 and almost literally within the shadow of the state capitol building. This is the northeast side of Oklahoma City, or simply the east side as many of the residents refer to it. This area of town used to be home to a popular amusement park and public swimming hole called Spring Lake. And when I say public, I unfortunately mean the whites-only public of the time. Attempts at integration took place in the 1960s and the 1970s. Unfortunately, in 1971, one of those attempts led to Spring Lake Amusement Park being the site of Oklahoma City's worst race riot. While the park closed in the early 80s, the Spring Lake name lives on. Today, Spring Lake is most widely known as one of the 4 police patrol districts within Oklahoma City. There are many ways to describe the part of the east side where our story takes place. It's an area where a large portion of Oklahoma City's black population lives. There are lots of small, locally owned businesses. There is very much a sense of community within the aging population. And there's a church on most every corner. That said, it's also a low-income area with extremely high rates of drug use and disproportionately high crime. The criminal activities on the east side range from lower-level crimes like petty theft, vandalism, and prostitution to much more serious crimes like armed robberies, home invasions, human trafficking, rape, and murder. Despite the high crime rate, the area actually has a statistically low 911 call rate. I attribute this mostly to 2 factors. The first being a prevailing no snitching code amongst the area's residents. In my experience, this really isn't so much of a moral code as it is an underlying threat. More along the lines of, snitches get stitches. The second is a general distrust for police in the Oklahoma County's DA's office. The police department at the time, 2014, was led by Oklahoma City Police Chief Bill City. City actually announced his retirement earlier this year, 2019, after serving as the city's top cop for 15 years. City's career has included some well-publicized disagreements with the police officers union and a recent court ruling that specifically stated that then Chief City had unfairly retaliated against a police lieutenant who had notified federal prosecutors of suspected criminal activity by a well-liked, high-ranking police officer who also happened to be friends of Chief City. The court ruled that City was liable in a $648,000 settlement in the case. City retired less than a year later. City's concerning behavior, though, has direct ties to the east side and can be traced all the way back to a 1979 case where then patrol officer City and his partner were accused by a black female resident of the northeast side of illegally entering and searching her home, illegally seizing her vehicle, and illegally arresting her. According to court documents, patrol officer City referred to the mother's brother using the N-word. Now, I'm going to provide a link to this court case, and you can read the actual quotes in the documents there. I'm not going to repeat exactly what then Patrol Officer City said, but it's pretty bad. When the woman asked if she could call someone to get her children because she's being arrested, City reportedly replied that he would call the animal shelter to come and get them. A judge who ruled on the case is quoted as saying this about Patrol Officer Bill City and his partner, quote, "The officers were either incompetently ignorant of their legal authority or who knew that what they were doing was illegal and acted with outrageous maliciousness." A judge went on to say, and I quote, "Crushed were the fundamental rights of a single protesting citizen beneath the grinding boot heel of uniformed government agents with all the cold callousness of an imperial executioner." And exactly how was then Oklahoma City Patrol Officer Bill City punished? Well, he was promoted to chief. Our Oklahoma County District Attorney's Office is led by DA David Prater. Prater was elected into office in 2006. He's run unopposed ever since, and he's earned the distinguished honor of leading the state's largest prosecutorial body in a state that has, since his election, been named the incarceration leader of the world. Oklahoma incarcerates more mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters than any other place on the planet. In Oklahoma, 1,300 out of every 100,000 adults is incarcerated. That's 50% higher than the national average. When you look at our black population, they are incarcerated at a rate 6 times that for white Oklahomans. Yet blacks make up only 12% of Oklahoma's total population. So needless to say, residents on the east side have watched many of their friends, loved ones, and neighbors locked up or otherwise disproportionately punished by a mostly white police force and a DA with a lock-em-up attitude. The racial tensions in Oklahoma in 2014 were pretty much a reflection of tensions across the country. You'll recall the Ferguson race riots, which began in August of that year. This story, this serialized podcast, is as much about racial tensions and distrust as it is about bad policing and injustice. Exactly how to define that injustice is where you come in. This story is about a white Oklahoma City Spring Lake patrol officer and how an off-the-clock traffic stop of a black grandmother launched an investigation into sexual assault. That investigation ultimately identified 36 alleged crimes at 17 alleged crime scenes against 13 black females who ranged in age from 17 to 57. Yet, without a single piece of direct forensic evidence, not a single independent eyewitness, and mounds of reasonable doubt, the officer was found guilty and subsequently sentenced to 263 years in an undisclosed prison. That officer is Daniel Holtzclaw, and this is my podcast to uncover the truth. My name is Brian Bates. I'm a licensed private investigator. I worked the Daniel Holtzclaw case for the defense. I have in my possession every piece of discovery evidence in this case. I will be revealing every police report, every allegation, every interview, and every instance where Officer Holtzclaw appears guilty and every instance where he appears innocent. It is my opinion, after researching this case in its entirety, that Daniel Holtzclaw is innocent of the crimes in which he was convicted of, and I will lay out in great detail how I came to that conclusion.
Hello, and welcome to everybody who is joining me live now. Thank you all so much. So there was a couple of you here that were super early, and you don't have to be early. You can be late if you want, but I wanted to recognize Allie Apperson, your friend from years and years ago when I first got involved. And she has already been subscribed to the channel, but she is interested in taking the journey with us. So this is perfect. We did do a little preface last week to the case, but this is the first accuser of the case. So
God help you, Allie, if you want to be a part. God help you. Get Xanax and a lot of liquor. That's all I can tell you.
yeah, maybe could help. And Double D was also early tonight, so thank you as well. And I'll get to everybody's hellos in just a minute, but I wanted to before I get too far, I always like to remind everybody to please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. If you're watching from Foul Play and you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to the channel. You can chat in either stream in Foul Play or just Rhonda. But of course, I would prefer it if you would chat in my channel. So remember to subscribe, like the videos, and share them if you can. And talk about the case. Talk about something new that you're learning about, a case that's new to you that you're learning about, that you're interested in, and get others interested as well. Having said all that, I want to welcome my two panel guests tonight, starting with Alice. Alice, how are you?
Hiya. Yeah, I'm doing okay. It's cold, wet, and windy here in Scotland tonight, so nothing new. And we're supposed to be getting snow over the next couple of weeks, so there might be a chance we wake up with a white Christmas. So they're telling us, but as usual, Scottish weather, you look at your window and you see whether it's raining, snowing, or sunny. So I'll just wait until I look at the window next week and see what happens. Great to be on panel with you again, Rhonda, and it's lovely to see some usual suspects in the chat with us again. Great to see Ali's joined us on the channel as well. So, like Jack says, I hope you've got plenty of your Xanax and alcohol, and remove all phones and breakables away from you, Ali, because you will want to eventually fling them off the walls. So, but other than that, looking forward to what you've got, Rhonda.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Alice. I appreciate that. And Jack with his sexy voice.
Well, I don't know about that. I sound much worse than I feel. I don't know what's going on. I got kind of a scratchy throat the other night, Monday night, I guess it was. Yeah, yeah, or Tuesday, I don't know, whenever the hell it was. Anyway, it's just gotten progressively worse. My voice, that is. I feel fine. I don't feel bad at all, but I sound pretty rough. So anyway, by the way, Alice, that's how we check our weather in Michigan. I think in most places of the United States, you look out the window to see what the hell's going on. Because,
Yeah.
being a weather person, weatherman, whatever, it's pretty much the only job you can be wrong 95% of the time and still get paid. It's cool. Good,
Yeah,
good,
exactly, Jack, exactly.
good work if you can get it. So, hello everyone
Yeah.
out there. And anybody, Ali, I don't know how much you know about this case on all seriousness, but I'm going to tell you that from a corruption, um, really disgusting prosecutor uh, point of view, this it is so bad. It's probably because there's so many accusers in this case. It's probably worse. It's got to be worse than the Avery Dassey cases. But, I mean, there are certain elements of the Avery Dassey case that are worse, I guess. But overall, this case here is terrible because they tried these 13, or yeah, there were 13 accusers all in one trial. And, I mean, I know Scott Adams, the defense lawyer, had some help, but it wasn't enough. He needed a lot more help. That's clear. And if you pay attention to the testimony that we've been reading out, Rhonda and Kay and Sheree have been able to get their hands on, it is so clear. And the way that Galen Geiger questions people, he doesn't really question. He just leads them. Instead of letting them tell the story, he tells the story and then asks them about it. That's leading the witness, and he does it with every accuser, and even the police officers that get up and testify. Hey, Allie, Rhonda, has Allie watched Daniel in the Den yet?
I don't know. I don't know.
There's a video.
Um,
Yeah, there's a video. Allie, there's a video on YouTube by Michelle Malkin called Daniel in the Den, and you really need to watch it. That will give you a real basis of the case. And of course, Brian Bates' podcast, listening to them, because this guy, Brian Bates, man, he really went under the hood. Anyway, that was a long intro. Sorry for my scratchy voice, but just deal with it.
oh, I'm dealing with it, Jack. I'm dealing with it. It's all good with me.
Cool.
Yeah, not a problem. Before I get too much further again, I had this set up to my Rumble account, and just like when Foul Play trying it, it's telling me that there was an error. So Jack and I, in our respective Rumbles, will have to. We're just going to have to work on that and try to figure out.
Oh, you got the error?
Yeah, I got the same error. So
Son of a, what the hell, man?
yeah, it's we'll have to do some investigating to figure out
Yep.
what the heck's going on with the Rumble. So there are so many of you in chat, and I'm so grateful to see you. And I'm highlighting everybody's hellos and everything to each other on the screen here, and your comments, which are pretty awesome. I love you guys. So I won't call out everybody by name in the chat, but just know that I know you're here, and I appreciate you, and we appreciate your support, and going along with this. And we will put, I only got a couple of links in the description for this for tonight. And that is a link for the case with Bill City, and the newspaper article about the cop that he retaliated against. I've got one of the newspaper articles on that. Excuse me, I started getting into that case, and it was a huge rabbit hole again. The problem is there's so much corruption in Oklahoma City that when you find a piece, you start looking at that to see if it's connected to what you're currently working on, and you just you just start finding more and more and more. And it's not that it's related specifically to Daniel's case, but definitely you can see how far back the corruption goes, where it comes from, who it comes from, and why there's so much corruption in Oklahoma City. So I see, let me grab a couple of links for you guys that I know that Jack mentioned. I have to find the right place. Oh, it's right there in front of my face. I will put the link, and I'm going to go back and put these in the description as well after tonight. But for now,
Yeah, I've just posted Daniel in the den for Ali, Rhonda. So
okay, all right. I will put in the Brian Bates, and where I listen to it from anyway is I listen to it from Podbean, but pretty much wherever you get your podcast.
Yeah.
So
yeah, wherever you listen to your normal podcast, you should be able to get Brian Bates, because you can get it on Spotify. And like Rhonda, I listen to Podbean, and it's in there as well. So, and even Apple, I think, even if you're on an Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast, you should be able to get Bates Investigates.
Yep, absolutely. And so those are just the couple of links to get you started. And I'm going to also, especially for those of you who are not familiar with this at all, I'm going to put in the link for Daniel's interrogation video, because we're going to be talking about that next week. So if you're able to watch that interview sometime before next Thursday, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on that interrogation. So, and Becca has dropped in. Hey, Becca, how are you doing? Great to have you here. Okay. So the first thing I will bring up is, well, let me just share with you first, because I talked about it in the little opening. The case that Chief City was involved in. Well, he was a cop at the time, but and the link is in the description for this. That I did make sure of. But this is a pretty significant case, and this was one on appeal um, eventually. And so in civil court, uh, there, the way that officer at the time, Bill City, handled just this one lady, Mrs. Brown, um, Thesha Brown, I believe is her name. Um, yeah, that's her name right there. Was definitely abusive, to say the least. If we're, if this case that we read is accurate, which I believe it is, and the way they treated her physically, and the things they said to her were egregious, unlawful. What happened was these two cops got a call over the radio about about a I don't even remember. It's all in this case, so it breaks it all down. Anyway, they showed up at Brown's home, and without a search warrant, strong armed her, like Brian Bates said, and twisted her arm up, behind her back. One of them twisted her arm up behind her back, and the other one grabbed her arm and twisted that arm up behind her back. They took the Cadillac. They moved her Toyota, which was in front of the Cadillac. They moved it with a tow truck, and then they took the Cadillac with the tow truck, and they entered her home. All of this without a search warrant, looking for her husband. So, and I really just recommend reading that case because it's very interesting. And it was at this point in this case is where we were able to see the words that Prater, well, not Prater. One of the cops said, I think you could see it on the stream. Bates wouldn't say it. I don't say that word, but I did use it from the case here, from the case law, and put it up on the stream, what he said about her brother who had run out to help her, and back that N word off. And I cringed. And then whenever he was, they were trying to, when the mom was, Mrs. Brown was just really upset and crying, and she's in handcuffs, and they've thrown her in the back seat of their squad car. And she's, can I just call somebody in my family to come and get my 3 little kids because they'll be here alone. And then it was really sickening what he said, that he would call animal control to come and pick up her kids. And this is a Black family. So to hear that a patrol officer said something like that is just disgusting. So hopefully you'll be able to read that lawsuit. And then this is, and I've linked this article in the description as well. Whoops, no, not that. Not that. Sharing the wrong screen. I'm watching a deposition, can you tell? I have too many tabs open. Sorry about that. Stop. Share screen. And okay, here it is. Okay, so this is the article. There's several articles actually in the Oklahoman about this particular case, but this is Oklahoma City Police Lieutenant Phil Williams, and he won this is a very deep and detailed story, but he ended up winning a $648,000 lawsuit that Bill City cost the city of Oklahoma. because of retaliation and such. Really crazy, intricate case. But this man was was promoted to chief of police. The reason this is so important to me that he got promoted, or that he, all these cases with him, is because he is the man who was the police chief when Daniel was working for Oklahoma City PD. He fired Daniel Holtzclaw before Daniel even could go to trial. He fired him from the police department. And the letter that he wrote was, well, you hear the kind of letter from, like from Judge Willis, for instance, and how harsh and cruel and demeaning that his letter was. And Bill City's was just as bad with Daniel when he fired Daniel, with the words that he put in his letter to Daniel. And he hadn't even been to trial yet. And so that to me is just outrageous. So let's see. Yeah, the comment about calling animal control, yeah, it did. It's really, really hard to hear that. I don't care if it was, 1948, 1968, 2002, 2014. I don't care. It's disgusting. And so unprofessional. And the thing is I was just telling Jack and Alice before we went live, I feel like if you're once you're a dirty cop, you're probably always going to be a dirty cop. That's a big assumption on my part. I get it, but I'm willing to go there. I mean, it would take, I don't know what it would take to get somebody to change their behaviors as a cop from being, that way when you're a patrol officer, to changing your mindset and attitude when you're, behind a desk. So I just wanted to share those. Hey, Case by Case, thank you for hanging out. I'll probably be on live with Case by Case on Monday, going over the case that she works on for Ashley Garth. So if you haven't subscribed to her channel, check her out, because she's also working on an incredibly crazy wrongful conviction case in Indiana. So anyway, I feel like it's important to tell you about how dirty Bill City was, from way back in his patrol days till the moment he fired Daniel, till the moment he retired, which was just a year after he went through this retaliation lawsuit with the lieutenant. And so he, I feel like that's important. Now, also, David Prater, oh my God, he has got to be the most angry, hateful, spiteful, revengeful district attorney I've ever heard about. And the way he speaks to the public, the way he speaks to people, and these things he's saying in public, the way he's speaking to other people who are disagreeing with him, or he's not clean either. He's got plenty of dirty stuff on his books too. And at the time that Daniel was being prosecuted, he wasn't the one prosecuting Daniel, but he was the district attorney in the office at the time. He was the one that's saying, file these charges, this charge, that charge, whatever. So
yeah, but like I said, just before we went live, Rhonda, what we've got to remember is nothing is going to change in these places unless the cops themselves change, because the young cops that are up and coming, that are just leaving the academy and everything like that, are being trained by these officers. So they're not being trained the right way to do things. They're being trained by the dirty tactics and everything like that these senior cops have got away with for years, you know, and the cycle doesn't break because none of these up and young coming cops open their mouth and don't say nothing when they see something wrong by another officer and things like that. So it's just a vicious circle, you know, just like take Gilchrist, for instance, you know,
Yeah.
she was the lab tech in Oklahoma and everything like that, with Bob Macy and everything like that. And look at the amount of cases and everything like that that had to get flung out because of her actions, you know. And then along comes Elaine Taylor, who does Daniel's evidence and everything like that, who was shady as fuck because she got trained by Gilchrist. So there, that cycle wasn't broken, you know. And as the next one that Elaine Taylor was training, who could now be in the lab training others, are they changing the cycle, or are they doing what she showed them to do, if you see what I mean? And it just goes on and on and on. So it needs to be changes within the system as well that needs to happen, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt whatsoever. I do not disagree with you at all. Alice brought up Joyce Gilchrist and Elaine Taylor, so I went ahead and posted, for those of you who aren't familiar, a couple of videos that we did about DNA in Daniel's case, which, let me just make it clear to those of you who are new to the case. The DNA that was involved in Daniel's case was very minute amounts of DNA. It was touch DNA, transfer DNA. But that is not the way Galen Giger refers to it at trial. So Dr. Silkman came on and did a presentation. We had a really long panel discussion first, which is the first link I posted, and then I sectioned out just his presentation at one point, just so you can just go back and watch just that if you'd like to. So I guess I should post these also in Bell Play. Sorry. So check those videos out too. They're both on my channel, but I've linked them here in the chat for you as well. So yes, everything Alice said I completely agree with. If the training is, it's a very difficult habits to break, and they are habits. I mean, they are habits that they get away with, and you know, it might start out to be something very small, you know, or very minor, but you know, once you start feeling some freedoms about, you know, to be able to get away with some of these things, you just keep doing more and more and bigger and bigger, and it's just my perception. It's just what I see. And I know Jack watches some of these as well, but I watch a lot of First Amendment audit videos, and it's astounding to me how, you know, when a law enforcement officers get called out to, you know, engage with these First Amendment auditors, the officers, the cops, nine videos out of 10 that I watch, the cops don't know the law. The auditors do. They've done their homework, and they've done their homework for the exact area that they're in. But the cops that respond, they don't know the law. They misinterpret the law, whether that's out of, you know, convenience for themselves, or just, you know, like Alice said, just over the years, it's just the way we've always done it. You know, I hear that in a lot of those videos, and it's the change has to come from beyond the top, and I mean from beyond the top of law enforcement. So I could talk about that all day, but that's not why we're here. So I, you know, definitely look into David Prater and Chief Bill City as far as Daniel's case is concerned. They're both dirty. Fortunately, David Prater retired last year, or this year, I guess. And the man who prosecuted Daniel, who was so foul and such a twister of facts, and straight up lied, and there's proof of that, that Galen Gigger straight up lied to the jury about the DNA in Daniel's case. He was then running for David Prater's position as DA. I don't live in Oklahoma, but I was right along with Kay, as were several of us, right along with Kay, speaking out against Galen Gigger, because, through Twitter, through YouTube, through whatever social medias we had, we were speaking out against Galen Gigger. And fortunately, I think Galen Gigger thought he was a shoo-in, that he was going to just waltz right into the position of district attorney. And he didn't. He did not get the position of district attorney. However, he did get hired into a higher office, working with the attorney general. So we just can't seem to get away from the shit, or get them away from us, from the people. So check those guys out. I have several videos from quite a while ago about David Prater. I have one about Galen Gigger. I might have a couple about Galen Gigger. And Joyce Gilchrist and Elaine Taylor. I've done separate videos quite a while ago talking about them. So another reason I want to just make clear that I'm starting over with this case now. I have more information now than I did the very first times I was talking about these different accusers. So, the more information I've learned and been able to get my hands on, it requires going back and talking about some of these things. So what we will do, any comments, Jack or Alice, while I'm pulling up this screen?
No, you mentioned watching some of these First Amendment videos. I watched a couple. One for sure is Audit the Auditor. That's a pretty good one. I've seen some really good stuff on there. There's a few others out there as well.
Yeah, they're very interesting. And I know that you can learn a lot. I mean, not every state, not every city or county has the same laws, but it definitely makes you think, wow, I need to go find out what it is in my city or my state
That's
that
right.
I need to be aware of.
Because locally, regional stuff. Now, state law, of course, is going to trump, anything regional, but or local. But just because something may be legal in your locale, if you move to some other city, even within your own state, their regulations could be different, and oftentimes are. And even the police, a lot of times, they don't even know their own regulations. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah,
It is.
now
It's scary.
these First Amendment videos and that you're talking about, I take it this is your First Amendment is your right to speech or something like that, is it?
Yeah, mostly the First Amendment audits.
Well,
It's
there's
hard to
different
explain, but yeah.
there's different. I mean, our you know our First Amendment. I mean, the first 10 amendments to our Constitution are called the Bill of Rights. Now, I know that if you're not an American, and even a lot of Americans don't know that. But the first 10 amendments to our Constitution are called the Bill of Rights.
Right.
And within that 10, I mean, there's 26 amendments, I believe. There's still some important ones after number 10, like the 13th Amendment. Jesus Christ. But
Yeah, and I've heard of 14th Amendment and
14th,
something
yep.
like that, and that's to do with your human rights or something like that.
well,
No, I
that's
mean
part of
what
due, that's
I'm
that's
saying
part
is,
of due. The 14th, 6th, and 14th Amendment deal with due process.
Due
But go
process.
ahead. Yeah.
yeah, no, because I mean here in the UK, I mean we do have the freedom of speech, like you know, we do have that. But when it comes to, you know, like TV programs, news programs, sometimes even some TV shows, we've got a body that we can go to. One of them's called Ofcom, and one of them's called Ofgem. And you know, like if you've seen a program on the telly on, say, BBC, for instance, you know, and you did not like what was in that program or anything like that, then you can complain to this body, and then this body will look into it and come back with a decision and say, you know, yeah, what was on that was out of order, it wasn't right, it was, you know, it was racist, it was phobic, you know, whatever. But you don't have something like that there, and that, because the way I see it, yeah, everybody has got a right to speech, and they can say things, but your words also have consequences, you know, like crats and traitor and stuff like that, lying in the court to the jury, or the police lying to a potential suspect or something like that, like they tried to do with Daniel. Oh, well, we've got you on video. And Daniel was like, well, show me, you know, let me see it, you know. But your words do have consequences, and that's what some people forget. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can say what you want, but there is consequences to what you say, and that should go for everybody: judges, lawyers, police, you know, and that kind of stuff. So I just think it's silly that people think that they can get away with saying whatever they want, you know, without consequences happening. Especially like news outlets and things like that, you know.
Right. Well, and that's one. That's, you know, in the First Amendment we have freedom of speech, and then we have freedom of press, and that's been that way for as long as there's been a press. That's been a part of our First Amendment. So
Yeah,
right,
yeah, we've
wrong, or
got freedom of the
indifferent, you
press.
know.
Yeah, we've got freedom of the press as well, but our press are held to a certain standard. You know, like I said, there's actually a body out there that if you see something in the press and you don't like it, then you can actually complain. And then, depending on how far it goes, it can be taken down, it can be removed, and they have to sometimes make an apology. You know, I think there was something said or done about the Duchess of Sussex or something like that, and this news outlet said something about her or about it, and they got over 4,000 complaints or something like that. And then this newspaper had to actually put on the front page an apology of some sort, you know. So there is a certain amount of freedom of speech, but it's only to a certain level. Our press in that is you know, there's limits that they can go to. So
I am having an issue with my screen. It's all black.
oh no.
I don't know if
Yes,
that's what you guys are seeing, but
yeah, we
Yeah.
are. It's all black. It's a black screen.
oh,
Yeah,
what is
black screen.
happening?
Okay, go to your black
Hi.
screen setting and turn that off. Oh,
Okay, all right.
yeah.
Oh my goodness, how frustrating. I don't know what to do. Hi, little Barb. Glad to have you here with us.
Leave the studio and come back. Leave the studio and come back. Log back in.
I guess, yeah. Oh, there we are. Can you guys see it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, we can
Yep.
see the screen now. Okay. Okay. You blame it on crats. We always blame whoever. Blame somebody, right? So this occurred on June 18th, 2014. And it was around this after hours stop took place at about 5 minutes after 2. Daniel had completed his shift. His normal shift was from 4 p.m. until 2 a.m. So while he started at 4 p.m. on the 17th, his shift completed or ended at 2 a.m. on the 18th. So this alleged crime took place on the 18th in the early morning hours. Daniel was off of work. He had went to the station and checked with his supervisor and was sent home. So he left and headed down a main street, and the street that it's actually a map that I wanted to bring up if I can find it. I don't think I'll be able to find it without.
Yes, Graham. Graham in chat is like, why was Daniel convicted? Maybe because there was a lot of unrest in the black community and Daniel was thrown to the wolves. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Exactly.
The protesters and that surrounded the court. They were outside shouting and screaming, lock him up, everything like that. The jury could hear them. They were in the corridors of the court, shouting the same, and everything like that. So yes, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, it was politically motivated, because they did not, if Daniel didn't get convicted of what they were accusing him of, then that city would have been burnt to the ground.
Yeah, I agree. So welcome also in Foul Plays chat, Galataki, who is Jack's son. So great to have you joining from Foul Play. You can certainly jump over and join from my channel as well.
Yeah, I'll send him the link.
Okay. It's just going to take, it's so much to get through with his case. It really is. So, I wanted to say hello to Susan, who jumped in.
Hi, Rhonda.
How are you doing?
Hello. I'm good. Just had a little niece emergency, so sorry I'm late.
Oh, you're okay. It's not a big deal. So Daniel pulls this. So he gets off of work and the street that his police division is on is called North Prospect. He heads down North Prospect. Just before he gets to the main cross street, which is 50th, Northeast 50th, he turns off his computer system in his take-home car. And it was a habit that he and many other officers were in and had just been doing, for whoever knows how long. So much so, though, that the police lieutenant, I believe it was, had sent out a memo telling the officers that they were not to, if they had a take-home vehicle, that they were not to turn off their vehicle until they from door to door, from home to department. They were not to turn off the computer. And a lot of them, including Daniel, were in the habit of doing that, and they just, continued doing it, didn't read the memo, whatever number of reasons that there might be. But he turned it off like he normally would. And as he turned, this red car pulled in front of him, and not in front of him, but was already going down 50th, Northeast 50th. And when he pulled out and got behind the car, he saw that the car swerved a little bit. And so he was trying to decide, do I want to pull her over? This could be somebody who's impaired, but, I'm off work, he thought better of it and thought, if there's somebody impaired driving, even though I'm off work now, I need to check and make sure that it's somebody, that they're safe, that they're not somebody who's impaired or falling asleep or in trouble of some sort. And so they go through the main intersection at North Lincoln, and she's going straight, so Daniel just follows her straight, and still on 50th North, and he pulls her over. And he still doesn't have his computer or his radio or anything on. Pulls her over, walks up to her car. She opens the door and she says, "Sorry, my window doesn't roll down. Have to open the door." And he said, when I was behind you, I saw that that you were swerving. No, I wasn't swerving. I wouldn't deny something like that off the bat. I probably would have been swerving, honestly. And so, but she argued and said, no, I wasn't swerving. And he asked her, to step out of the car. He saw a cup in her little drink holder in her console. And he asked her, "What's in that cup? Have you had anything to drink tonight? What's in that cup?" No, I haven't been drinking. I don't drink alcohol. Offers the cup to him, tells him he can taste it if he wants to. There's no alcohol in it. Well, of course he doesn't taste it. That's gross. But he asks her to step out of the car. She walks back to his vehicle with him, and he tells her that he's going to do a pat search on her for weapons, for officer safety. So he does a backhand, using the back of his hand, pat search on her, just down her sides, around her waist, and just down the outsides of her legs. And he then has her sit in the back of his patrol car and asks if he can go search her vehicle to make sure that there's nothing illegal in the vehicle. She gives him permission. So he goes and he searches. He doesn't find anything, doesn't smell anything in the cup. He finds some bottles, a bottle of pills that has her name on it. And he looks at it and he thought it said hydrocodone. But he, had her name on it. So he put it back and, came back. It was like, I think he said 5, maybe 10 minutes that he took to search the car. It was basically a cursory search, honestly. And came back to talk to her. We don't know everything he said to her, but knowing what Daniel's habits were, well, he did ask her, it's late at night, it's the middle of the night. Where have you been? What were you doing? Where are you going? The typical questions I've been asked by officers. And she said that she was at her friend's house and they were playing cards and dominoes. And she said that she had taken some PM headache medicine, PM pain pills over the counter because she had a bad headache. And then about midnight, she laid down to take a nap. And then she got up and left around 2:00 in the morning because her boyfriend had to be at work at 4:30, and she had the car. So that's a nutshell of what happened and how the stop occurred. Daniel determined that she wasn't impaired. He thought, that he thought she had indeed been drinking, but she said she hadn't. He didn't sense that there was a great deal of impairment. And so, also she told him, "I don't have a driver's license." "Why don't you have a driver's license?" "It's been suspended for 30 years. For 30 years. So he lets her off with a warning. He tells her, "Go get this taken care of tomorrow, get your license taken care of tomorrow, and go straight home." And she said that she told him where she lived, and he said, "Well, I'm going to follow you to make sure you get home safely." So they pulled out from where they were at, and instead of waiting for her to follow her like he said he was going to, he just took off because he was getting annoyed that she was kind of taking her time, wasn't really getting on the go very quickly. And so he was like, screw this, I'm going home. So he left, took off and went home. She went her direction. But she gets home and tells her daughter, Marissa or Marisha, however you want to say it, she wakes her daughter up. So her and her boyfriend, Richard Long, lived in a, let's see here, lived in a apartment with her daughter, her daughter, her daughter's boyfriend, and her daughter's 3 kids lived in this same apartment. I don't know how big the apartment was, but that seems like a lot of people, in probably what's a small space. Anyway, she goes in and wakes up her daughter at about 2:45 when she gets home, tells her daughter that she got stopped, pulled over by a cop, and then the story vastly separates from Daniel's report and his version of what happened to what she says and what she tells her daughter. Her daughter's name is Marissa Ligons, and she was an active member of the newly forming BLM um, organization there in Oklahoma City. And that organization had been organized and was being run by a lady named Grace Franklin. And Marissa was very involved in this BLM organization locally. So there's a lot of theories about what Jannie told her daughter and what Jannie's daughter decided, or it's just really, anybody's guess to decide who said what. We have a lot of speculation that Marissa, because she's all involved in BLM, and this is just before Ferguson, by the way. I think Brian Bates said that in the opening. This was just before Ferguson, but I haven't spoken to one single person that lived in Oklahoma City at that time that has not told me that there was a lot of racial tension in Oklahoma City before Ferguson happened in August. So, and we've looked up articles and things like that to talk about racial tensions and things that were going on in Oklahoma City at the time with BLM and race and different things like that. It becomes possibly clear very, very early on in this case that a lot of this is crafted towards race, toward racial tension, and fueled by each new accuser that gets developed as time goes on. So they say that Jannie Ligons tells her daughter apparently, and the police that they meet up with later, that she was pulled over at this location, tells them the location, and that she says he raped her. But they find out when they go to the hospital that it was not a rape, it was oral sodomy. 2 different things. Neither one are okay, but they're 2 different things. So, excuse me. So
Can I just
apparently
interject something here, Rhonda?
Yes, please do.
Also, when Daniel had her pulled over, she kept saying to him, "Don't shoot me. Are you going to shoot me?" She was scared to death for some reason, just to be pulled over. So I think that added to everything.
Yeah.
I'm sure her daughter probably made her daughter angry. That her mom was so upset.
Yeah, absolutely. And she did. Ligon says that she kept saying, "Don't shoot me, don't shoot me. Are you going to shoot me?" I was afraid he was going to shoot me. And you'll hear in Daniel's interrogation, whenever you watch that he's kind of like, kind of puzzled by that, because he's like, I don't know why she would think I was going to shoot her, but yeah, it's absolutely possible that she's pulled over on a dark street with very little traffic. I mean, not that there wasn't any, but little traffic. And, she could very well have felt threatened, unsafe, and all those things, and legitimately that way. And yes, by telling her daughter, I got pulled over, and it was this white cop who, pulled me over and told me I was swerving and, told me to go get my license fixed. And was, as simple as that was, it turned into something very different by the time the
Well,
story gets reported.
tell everybody how long Jannie Ligons had driven without a license.
Yeah, 30 years.
Never got her driver's license, not one time.
Yeah, nobody
Can I
ever,
just,
nobody, please,
sorry,
no, go ahead.
you can finish your sentence. I just wanted to also say that, Rhonda and Cherie and me and Kay met up in Oklahoma City this summer, and we went to that intersection. And this is Oklahoma City, and at that time I looked it up. The population was like 620,000 people or something, over 500,000 people. So I had always, in my head, pictured this intersection as a big, wide, intersection. But it's actually very small. It's a very small 4-lane, um, 4 lanes of traffic, but just narrow. No center. What do you call it? Median, as I recall.
Right,
And
right.
Daniel had her pulled over in the right lane, was it not?
Mhm.
Or was
Yeah,
there an actual parking lane? I think it was just
no,
the right lane.
it was just the right lane. Yep.
And people were driving by. It, it was lit. Um, and so to think that a police officer in his duty car, in his full uniform, would stand in this intersection and have a woman give him oral sex right there. I mean, it's crazy. It's a crazy
Yeah.
accusation. Sorry, Brenda.
No, please don't hesitate to jump in because I'm trying to. The video I had prepared is I lost, so I'm trying to wing it right now. So anything you can
Okay.
remember to add, please do.
Yeah, I was just
Um,
shocked when we went to that intersection and actually saw it in person. It's
yeah,
like there's just no way. I mean,
I think
it's
we all were
small.
because it was so small, and I remember thinking, wait, what is happening? This doesn't look like someplace that it was just. I'm trying to find a picture because I took a screenshot. I have video of it, and I took a screenshot of the intersection right there while we waited for the light. And of course, I can't find it, which is so annoying. But anyway, it's just hard to imagine. I'm like Susan. I thought this was like a 4 lane on both sides, big highway that she was stopped on, and it is nothing of the sort. Nothing at all.
With like
Lincoln,
a
the
big
cross street.
median in the
Yeah,
middle, and yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it's
that's what
not.
we thought, and there was nothing like that at all. So maybe that's in my downloads. It might actually be in my downloads and not pictures. Now that I think of it.
It's such a shame that
Oh,
that
it is.
camera from that nearby building didn't get
Yes.
better video.
Okay, let me share it. I do have a picture. Let me share it here. I don't have it cropped or anything, but that's okay. You guys won't mind. Um, okay, let me just show you because it's like, and we found this to be the case in all of the places that we visited.
Oh my
We
gosh, they're
were
so much tinier. I mean, those are
so
narrow little
tiny.
streets. that
Yes,
all of these other
yes,
ones supposedly took place. And there's a stoplight just right there. They're just forward of this light on the other
mhm,
side of this light where they're stopped, right, Rhonda? Am I looking
yes.
at it right?
Yeah. So this is the direction. This is going. Let's see. This is going north. And this is link. Oh, I'm showing this. I got to get to my actual picture. Hold on. So this is Lincoln Boulevard. This is the cross street. This street where the light is northeast 50th. Right around here, right past where this 40-mile-per-hour sign is, just past that, because that's a pull through in a driveway, to a parking lot. Just past that little street, I don't know if you guys can see the cursor or not, but this is where she was pulled over. This is how Susan is trying to describe this to you. These are just regular lanes on a regular street, 4-lane,
No median. Yeah.
no median, just a yellow line, double yellow line there, and that's it.
And yes, Liam,
There,
that building on the right is where the camera was.
so the building, you really can't see it very well. It's back here behind these trees. You can
Oh, I
just
thought it's
barely
the
see
one we
it.
could see. I
No,
thought it was
it's just
okay.
barely see it back here, that little tiny bit. But Kay was driving us very quickly, so trying to get pictures was difficult. But anyway, that's where she was pulled over, and so she's pulled over in a lane basically, and Daniel is, I don't know if he was on the street or on the curb at that point, but she's saying that he's standing there demanding oral sex from her in the back seat of his patrol car.
Several
And
cars go by during this stop.
mhm, two go down the street that they're on, or one goes on the street, goes down that second lane, and then pulls into a parking lot over on the left, over by where that building is. And then another one pulls down and just goes straight ahead. But Lincoln Boulevard is it is a busy highway type of a road.
It
So
has a
we're to,
median.
and
Yeah.
it has a median, yes, yep. So it's just a little bit hard to believe. Seeing it in person changed everything for us.
Yeah.
I remember we just kept saying, no way, there's no way that he, and it's like that with all of the locations that we were able to go to. We went
It
to
is.
most of them, if I'm not mistaken, but it
Mhm.
was like these little, almost, I know it wasn't this tight, but didn't you almost feel like it was like hairpin turns to get down some of these streets because they were so narrow?
Just super narrow and just neighborhoods, all houses,
Yeah.
and just narrow streets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing like the 4-lane there. It's like,
No. Which is what I expected Northeast 50th to be. I expected Northeast 50th to look like Lincoln Boulevard, but it's not half the size. Just crazy. So they end up making this wild report that this cop pulled her over on the side of the road that we just showed you, forced her to perform oral sex, pulled out his penis, just whipped it out from underneath his uniform pants, and threw somehow a pair of compression shorts that don't have a fly in the front.
with his what's
With
the
his duty
protector
belt.
on the chest, the duty
Yep.
belt, the
The bulletproof vest or
bulletproof
whatever.
vest that hangs down. Yeah.
Yeah. it's just not feasible. And every single one of the accusers, well, most of them, as we go through this, you'll hear that that his penis was just in their face. He just unzipped his
It
zipper
out.
and whipped it out in their face. And
Yeah,
it's just
short
not possible.
stays attached to his socks. I mean,
Yeah.
crazy.
So it's just outrageous, how unlikely it is that any of this happened. But the thing that was really bad was, well, everything was really bad, but Kim Davis, and you'll hear this in Brian Bates' podcast and in Michelle Malkin's interview with Davis and Gregory. Um, she believed immediately when she went to the hospital to interview Jannie, as a sex crime detective, to interview Jannie about the assault that had taken place without even knowing a description of the officer yet, uh, uh, the car yet. She didn't know anything about, other than she's just there to collect information to get the story from the accuser, from the alleged victim. And she says in different TV interviews that she does, Kim Davis, that the way Jannie was crying and the way she told her story, she believed her. She knew something had happened to Jannie, and she felt bad for Jannie because she knew something bad had happened to her.
She believed every word.
She believed every single fucking lying word. And it's just,
I think you forgot to mention that Janie ended up at the hospital, what, 4 hours after the incident, supposed incident, or after the
well,
traffic stop?
it was more like, probably 2.5 hours later that she
Oh,
went.
okay.
Yeah, it was about 2.5 hours after the alleged incident, when she reported, when her and her daughter and the whole crew reported to two cops they found in a parking lot. When they reported, they told the cops that, well, Marissa, the daughter, allegedly told the cops, my mother was just raped by a cop just right over there, close to where these cops were sitting. And so, of course, everything goes into high gear, and people's phone calls start getting made. And, Kim Davis was the on-call, or she was the on-call sex crimes detective that particular night. So she got the call at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, to go to the hospital and interview this person. And when she got there to interview her, she believed everything she said without even trying to verify anything that she said. She believed everything she said. She felt bad for her. She knew something bad happened to Jannie. And that is more of an advocate mentality, first of all, than it is a sex crimes detective mentality. Detective, detectives can't have that sort of confirmation bias, or, believing one side of a story before they've heard anything else. It's just not part of training. It's not part of what they're allowed to do. But in this particular case, and I don't know how many other cases for Kim Davis, she believed everything Jannie said to her. So when they go to talk to Daniel that later that afternoon, when he shows up for his shift at 4 o'clock, they already know by this time that it was Daniel Holtzclaw that had stopped her. That was easily determined. And Kim Davis goes into this, that's why I call it an interrogation and not an interview. She goes into this interrogation already believing Daniel's guilty of
Oh, she
what
knew it.
Jannie said. Yeah,
She knew he was guilty. Yeah.
yep, she was convinced. She knew it. Yes. So when you listen to the interrogation, we're not going to listen to it next week because it's just about 2 hours long. But we
And
will discuss
available
it and
to
available. Yeah.
everyone to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've linked it in here if I'm not mistaken. But at any rate, it will be in the description too. But try to watch that interrogation before next Thursday if you can, because I want your true, especially if you've never seen it before. For those of you who are new to the case, I really want your input on how you feel about that interrogation. We know that they use the read technique. We know that they're using camaraderie skills. We know that they're using. We know, we've seen enough. We all know enough about how police interviews are conducted or interrogations. So, besides all those obvious things, I am truly interested in hearing your feedback next week about this interrogation, because they didn't go in there just to interview Daniel to try to clear him of this allegation. Kim Davis had already decided Daniel did it, and it didn't matter what he said to her. She wasn't going to believe anything different. So he was fucked from the second they met face to face in that office. He had no chance at that point already. And
Now, Rhonda, did they not
Yeah.
have this meeting before his interrogation?
Yes.
You should talk
And
about that.
yes. Let me see if I can. Let me pull up this homepage and get the transcript. Licensed private investigator. Somewhere in the let's see. Children. Because I want to make sure I say it right, because it is pretty critical. They have a meeting, so Kim Davis, Rocky Gregory, Lieutenant Tim Musney,
All three sex
and
crimes, right?
yeah, they're all three with the sex crime unit. Major Denise Wenzel and I believe Johnny Coleman, who was the I believe the captain at the time. They have this meeting, and before Gregory and Davis go in to meet with Daniel, and I know
After they
right.
determined it was Daniel, right?
Yep, they had already determined that it was Daniel Holtzclaw, whose car
Who made the stop?
they had made the
Yeah.
stop. Okay, here we go. It's gonna. I don't know if I can make it. I'll try to make it bigger so you guys can all see it better.
Rhonda, how did they determine that since his computer was off?
Determine what?
That it was Daniel.
Because his was the only car not accounted for. Whoops.
Okay.
In through AVL and computers and stuff like that.
Okay.
And really, too, guys, it's kind of hard. I mean, nobody's trying to say that it wasn't Daniel who made this stop. It obviously was.
Oh yeah.
And they did know that. So that was never an issue. Of whether or not it was him, because it absolutely was. So let me read to you this. Okay. Just want to make sure I wasn't. Okay, so this is in Brian Bates' podcast, and if you go to the 39-minute mark in episode 1, so Kim Davis, well, I'm not even going to read that part because it'll just lead into another accuser that we don't need to talk about just yet. Detective Davis wonders out loud if there could be a connection with that case to this case, talking about one of Rocky's cases. She notes that they should ask Holtzclaw about Morris if they indeed decide to interview him. They already knew they were going to interview him. The deputy chief, this is the important part, the deputy chief makes it clear during this meeting that Chief Bill City is personally keeping tabs on this investigation as reported, and this was reported in the Oklahoma newspaper. Lieutenant Musney pulls Detective Davis aside and tells her the eyes of the department are on her, and that, quote, with the department already struggling with relations in the minority community, that they know how explosive something like this could be, end quote. No pressure, right? Like, okay. So she's obviously going to be under some pressure, I would imagine. But you know what? I don't even feel like that's that big of a issue for Kim Davis, because she's pretty arrogant and strong-willed and cocky. And so it may have been more pressure on her, but she already knew what she was going to do.
And I'll just
she
say,
already
because
knew.
it was a little bit confusing, I thought, reading that, but that was reported in the Oklahoma newspaper after
Yeah.
all of this occurred. Yeah.
Yes. 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 Absolutely. Sorry. Yeah. I'm really sad I don't have my video for you guys, because that was going to be so much better. But anyway, yes. So it's been made known to Kim Davis that Bill City, our dirty cop from the 70s, who made those disgusting comments and fired Daniel before he even went to trial, that Bill City is watching the case and the investigation, and all of the eyes of that department are going to be on her. The sex crimes department. I don't know. So, yeah, did she make any of the? Was she concerned about it, or was there pressure on her? Did she feel some pressure? I just don't feel like she felt pressure as much as she felt like, okay, I got a case to make here. I got a case to put together. I got a case to fabricate, because they're
She
all
already
watching
believed him
me.
guilty, so
Yeah, no big deal. She just,
before
and
she even went into that room. Yeah.
before she even spoke to Daniel, and so when you have that in mind, before, as you're watching the interrogation, it makes you feel some type of way, for sure. Or it did me. It did most of us here. So, and then that was it. They were off and running. Daniel gave his consent for DNA, buccal swab rather. He gave up his uniform, pants, and belt to Rocky Gregory, who opened up a brown paper sack for Daniel, and because the bottom was kind of, folded shut, got in there, reached his hand in there, and opened the bottom of that sack up for Daniel to put his uniform pants in.
Barehanded, no gloves. No gloves.
No gloves, bare hand. And Daniel, when he put the pants in, he just kind of folded it, I think, in half or 3 times, and just kind of stuck it in dropped it into the bag. And that is not the way. I'm not an analyst. None of us here are analysts, but we've read enough, watched enough, learned enough, studied enough, researched enough, that even we know you're not going to get a legitimate, valid sample if it's been contaminated by somebody else's DNA, which it absolutely was with Rocky Gregory's. I know that Daniel's attorney has asked or requested to get Rocky's DNA, and it's, they're saying, nope, not going to do that. There's no reason for it. So,
well, the investigators don't believe in touch DNA. They've never had touch DNA in a case. It's very, very rare, says
Yeah,
Blinkwinkle,
Winkle, Kim
Kim Davis.
Davis. Yeah. Yeah, she sure does. Yeah. They don't believe, and when you if you watch the interview with Michelle Malkin does an interview with Kim Davis and Rocky Gregory, I think like 3 years later, um, September, I think 2019, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll post that in the description for you too. But she does this lengthy interview with them, and she mentions, touch DNA. Isn't it possible that it's touch DNA and it's inside of his pants? Oh, no, no. We rarely get DNA. We never get a case where we have touch DNA. And it's like, what? I don't know what Michelle Malkin was thinking, but I know when I first watched it, I was like, oh my God, she's crazy. So, and she does, and then Michelle Malkin does another really good forensic scientist special talking about the DNA in Daniel's case and breaks it down. And Dr. Crane, I can't remember his first name, but Dr. Crane does a part about DNA, touch DNA, and does a demonstration, I guess you would say, with Michelle Malkin about how touch DNA is transferred and how easily it's transferred every second of the day when we're in contact with an object or another person or anything like that, and how easily it's transferred. But the DA or the Galen Gigger says nope, didn't happen, couldn't happen, can't happen. And if Daniel supporters say that it did or it is, they're lying to you. So he says that in a police interview. So I feel like I've cheated you guys on this episode because of the work I had done in the last few days that got tragically lost somehow this morning. But it's what I've done is I have posted the entire police report in my Discord in, let's see, I don't know, Jack, or can one of you guys post the Discord link, or Liam or somebody? I posted the entire police report in the Jannie Ligons room in my Discord. Excuse me. And you can read through all of it yourself. Read that along with what Brian Bates has broken down in this episode, and then start venturing into. I'm giving you guys homework, by the way, in case you couldn't tell. Let me get you a link, Allie. Invite people. I'm just gonna send it to you that way. I just sent you an invite that you should be able to get in your DM. So when you start, putting it all together, Jannie Ligons' story, just like everybody else's, has so many changes from her original telling, from the way her daughter tells it, from the way Jannie tells it, from the way Kim Davis writes it up in the report. And then, as you know, we will eventually get to the preliminary transcript, where you're going to see more changes, of course. And that's what this has all been about. That's what this entire series has been about, that I've been trying to work through, is showing you how dirty the detectives were, and the lieutenants, and everybody, showing you how dirty they are, and how
Deceitful.
deceitful. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. And how much they all literally, I feel like, work together to craft these enormous lies into cases against Daniel. And these accusers were coming, left and right. And there's some days in September of 2014, getting closer to trial, uh, not to trial, but excuse me. They arrest Daniel in August 21st or 22nd of 2014. The very next month in September, it's like they're coming out of the woodwork, of course, because they've seen him on the news now. They've seen, pictures of him, and they have had a legitimate, legal, lawful encounter with Daniel. And so these women just start, when the detectives go down the list that they got from Lieutenant Musney, and we'll talk about that as we go a little bit longer. I think we won't really talk about the list until we get to probably Terry Morris's case, and then we'll start talking about the list. But you'll learn that even though they say Daniel chose women with histories of prostitution, drug abuse, crime, and they were Black women, mental illnesses and all those things, they say throughout that these are the women that Daniel picked. Those are not the women that Daniel picked. Those are the women and the demographics that Daniel worked in. The people that chose those women were the lieutenant and his bosses, his higher ups. And they were the ones who went through all of Daniel's call logs for a year and a half back, I think it was, or a year back, and chose only women who were Black with criminal histories, prostitution, drug abuse. And they put Lieutenant Musney put those women on a list, and that's how they came up with the accusers. And then he sent the detectives out to hunt these women down and work on and make a case against Daniel.
And they said to these women when they contacted them, or to their families if they couldn't get a hold of the women, I've received a tip that you were sexually assaulted by a Oklahoma City police officer.
Yeah. Nothing like putting something in somebody's mind, right? I mean,
yeah.
The same thing with what was done with Brendan. Just say a thing and it plants a seed. And
Absolutely.
that's what these women would say. Yep, something did happen to me. Well, okay, tell me about it.
I think you might also mention, Rhonda, that Jannie Ligons' SANE examination came back negative. There was nothing of Daniel. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we sure will. We're going to.
I thought you're kind of past that point, so sorry.
Well, they do the same exam and they wait for it to come back. This or a rape kit, I guess, is what it's more commonly known as. And the only thing they have to do is just swab the inside of her mouth to get any DNA, because that's what she said, that Daniel forced her to give him a blowjob. And so, she says that, yep, how long did you have it in your mouth? Well, the first time, just a second. Oh, was there more than one time? Yeah, because he made me do it again, told me, come on, I'm tired, I want to go home, just do this and let's get it over with. And so she gave him a blowjob for about 10 seconds, she says. And then she was done. He was done. He magically put his penis back into his compression underwear, zipped him back up. And so, there's supposed to be DNA now, his DNA, from the inside of her mouth. There was absolutely, and I'll show you when we look at Dr. Silkman's chart, There was absolutely no DNA from anybody else in her mouth anywhere. And she claimed that he made her put her hands on top of his car while he did his search, and that he had his hands on top of the car at one point. And when they did the testing on Daniel's car, there were 0 fingerprints found anywhere on his car. Nowhere in her, nowhere, no DNA in the car. They told Daniel during the interrogation that they found a pubic hair in the back seat of his car. Nothing like that was ever found. Of course, we know that's Reed technique bullshit, but there was just nothing found. There was no DNA in Jannie Ligons' mouth but her own.
And not to
Yet,
mention that later on, supposedly, 2 of the stops in that same day, in that same shift, he supposedly also sexually assaulted 2 other women the same day. So,
yes. Yep. Yeah. So, yeah.
so there
Yeah.
should
And
have
when we
been their
get to
DNA as
that,
well.
yes, I was just going to say, when we get back through, finally get all the way back around to the end again, and you learn that he allegedly raped 2 women on the evening of the 17th, hours before he allegedly forced Jannie Ligons to give him a blowjob, then we should have DNA from 2 unknown women in Jannie Ligons' mouth as well. But there's not. There's no DNA. No DNA from anybody. But we'll get to that at the end of all this, at the end of all of this show. So, like I said, I cheated you. I feel bad that it looks like, and I feel like I've cheated you. Listen to the entire first episode of Brian Bates. It's only about 45 minutes long, perhaps, if that. And if you can, Allie, if you like, you haven't watched Michelle Malkin, Daniel in the Den, definitely check that out. It's about an hour and 20 minutes long. And then listen to the interrogation. What do his past girlfriends say about his amount of ability to desire to act multiple times a day? Well, we're definitely going to talk about that as time goes on. But none of his girlfriends had anything bad or negative to say about him when they were interviewed by the detectives. Nothing bad. They didn't have anything, no concerns about his sexual, prowess, or oversexed or anything like that, or nothing like that. No complaints. He wasn't abusive. He wasn't aggressive. He was very kind, very respectful, spiritual with his current girlfriend at the time. They were very spiritual together. And so there's just nothing bad to say. No bad comments to be said from when they were in, when he was in college in Eastern Michigan. He was a star football player in college, and nobody from the college had anything negative to say about him. No faculty, no classmates, no teammates, no girlfriends, nobody. So, there's some behaviors that are missing that you would think would be present or poking or peeking through at some point if someone were a serial rapist. But,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. They could find nothing in his background.
There was just nothing to be found. Check out the police report. The police report, like I said, it might seem like it's really long. It is, but that does contain 88 pages of the transcript from his interrogation as well. So, oh, JD, how you doing?
Hey, JD.
I'm glad to hear that someone at least looked into that. Yeah, they looked into it. Because they were just determined to find somebody that was going to say something about him being some sort of sexual pervert or something. And there were just no reports of anything like that. It just didn't
They even
have anything like
didn't
that.
didn't they even check out where he went to university
Yeah,
in
Eastern Michigan University.
Michigan? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Didn't he have a girlfriend at the time he was arrested? Yes. How long had they been together by then? Are they still together? They're not still together. Once he was convicted and sentenced, she was 23, 24 years old, something like that.
But she did support him and
Yeah,
did
still
not
does,
believe
from
the
what I
accusation.
understand. Yeah, I believe she still is supportive of him. She never believed any of the allegations. They lived together during the time. Well, I shouldn't say he had his own apartment, or I think that they would stay at each other's apartments, or they lived together most of the time, I guess. And so she never had any complaints, no red flags, nothing to say. And I think they had been together for about 6 or 7 months from the time they got together till he got arrested. And so yeah. Are there any other questions from the chat or from anybody on the panel, or comments?
You're doing great,
It is
Rhonda.
very sad. It is very sad, Allie. It's again, for those of you who aren't familiar at all with the case, Daniel was charged with 36 counts of various types of sexual crimes, including but not limited to rape. He was convicted on 18 of those counts, and of those 18 counts, he was sentenced to 263 years concurrent years in prison.
By the disgraced former judge, Timothy Henderson, who has his
Yes.
own sexual
Deviance, crimes,
sexual
and
deviance, accusers.
yes. There's also a video or two, way back in my channel about this former disgraced judge Timothy Henderson. So,
Who made all of his sentences consecutive. None of them were concurrent. They were all consecutive, which
I know I
added up
said
to
concurrent.
263 years. I don't think he did. But
okay. Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
well, as bad, just as bad. Yeah, he's sick. He's a
with
liar.
the ADAs in his office is who
Yeah.
he had these sexual allegations by.
Yes. Yeah. So he was forced to resign, which pisses me off. He should have been fired. I hate that they get the opportunity to resign. But of course he resigned so he could keep his pension. He went back to practicing law, if you can believe that. And recently, I guess there's been a grand jury, what are they, impaneled, or however that's said, to take his bar license away from him so he can no longer practice law, which should be. That's just the way it should be.
He should be
Uh,
prosecuted in my
yeah, well,
eyes.
yeah,
Yeah,
prosecuted for sure.
exactly. It should be prosecuted. Any of them that do anything wrong to get a conviction or anything like that should be prosecuted. But when something like this comes out about a judge, especially a judge who's supposed to be, the one that follows the law and makes sure it's done properly. But when they're getting accused of sexual allegations and everything like that, the cases that they've resided over on these types of offences should be re-looked at, especially when you find out that he was actually doing it with the opposition lawyers. You know what I mean? So they should be pulled through the coals for it.
Yeah, I agree. Yes. JD says, "How long do you really think Daniel's going to live?" He's first of all, we're doing everything that we can to. He's in post conviction now, or working, in post conviction to get it going. But hopefully he's going to be among one of those who's exonerated and released from prison. That's going to be splashed all over the news. The thing is, and I know I've, we've talked about this many, many times, but Oklahoma City has a horrible record of wrongful convictions, and not only wrongful convictions, but wrongful executions, and executions that are pending of wrongfully convicted individuals. They are going, just like Wisconsin, they are going to die, every one of them, before they allow, if they have anything to do about it or say about it,
To protect the verdicts.
protect the verdict. Yes. A new trial, Allie, or yeah, an evidentiary hearing, either of those, or just, ideally have his case thrown out, but we know that's not going to happen. But yes, right now working on post conviction for evidentiary hearing, or a new trial for sure. Because with a new trial, it's going to be easily proven that, that the what Giger said about the DNA in closing argument was a flat out lie, and they will be able to, I don't know, they won't be able to have it tested again, but they'll be able to have an outside, somebody outside, looking at the DNA in the case that can be truthful about it, and what it really was and what it did include. So, and also, Allie, and those of you who aren't familiar with this case, they convicted Daniel using, well, there was no evidence. So there's the other thing. And when I know that everybody says there's no evidence in the case, whatever. There is no evidence in Daniel's case, because everything that they used and said was evidence was data from his AVL, automatic vehicle locator, AVL, GPS. He was at all of these scenes where all of these women alleged they were assaulted. He was there. He was having legitimate law enforcement encounters with them. So yes, he was there in those places. But that doesn't tell you, that AVL or GPS doesn't tell you what's going on, or that somebody was sexually assaulted or touched or had their penis out or raped. The AVL just doesn't show you that. It's impossible. So that's what they use in trial in every single one of these, except for perhaps Shardarian Hill. They use the AVL in every single one of the accuser's cases, testimonies, to say, yep, there he was there. He was going this speed, this, and stopped here for this long, and every single bit of that is explained legitimately through normal, regular police activities that are being performed while they're doing their job. K is who
Katie
she
did
just
it.
with this. Katie did it. She's actually, I believe, on a visit with Daniel, if I'm not mistaken. Visiting him now. She's very close with Daniel and the family, and has regular contact with Daniel and his family. Knows everything there is to know about this case. Yeah, you've seen her name.
Lives in Oklahoma, not far from Oklahoma City.
Yep. Yeah. Awesome lady. We went, and that's who we stayed. Well, we rented an Airbnb and we all stayed at this house, and she stayed with us while we were there and cooked for us 3 meals a day, whether we needed them or not. And
she was our chauffeur.
She drove us all around and took us to different places, told us about different places and things like that. But she's definitely the encyclopedia of this case for sure. And
yes.
She's a new mod in Foul Play. So, yeah. I imagine she'll be back next week from her visit. So, yeah. That's... She just has a wealth of knowledge, and I assist her. Cherie and I assist her with whatever information she's trying to put together or whatever. You do need to meet her. She's pretty awesome. Pretty straightforward. Awesome. Yeah, pretty straightforward. You never know. You never have to wonder, what she's thinking or where she stands, and very kind and just a great person all around. So you'll get to meet her. Okay, so that's kind of where I think, unless there's other questions or comments, I know there are. I think we can probably wrap this one up, and you guys can do some homework. I'll get you some links to put in the description, and you can, like I said, do a little homework before next week, and we can talk about the interrogation. Oh yeah, she cooked the food for us 3 times a day.
Oh my God,
when I left,
she is a fantastic cook.
She was such a good cook.
She made us scones for breakfast one morning.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I remember before I left, I took some cash out of the bank so that I could just use cash. If we went out to eat or whatever we were good. I didn't spend any money because, except for the first night we were there, we did all go out to dinner to a nice restaurant. After that, Kay cooked every single meal for us the entire time we were there. She was amazing. So, were you going to say something, Jack?
Yeah, I was just going to say that maybe Kay should think about opening a chain of restaurants. It sounds like she's on it.
Oh my God, she could.
Wow,
that's
she sure
could. Desire to do that, but yeah,
she
made us pesto. She'd made from her garden. Everything was just amazing. Yeah.
I remember you guys talking about that during that week when we talked. It's crazy. Yeah, I wanted to come down there and just have dinner. Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Yeah, we're planning another trip for sure. At least I know Cherie and I are earlier in the spring because when we went, it was the middle of July. We couldn't get out and walk around or do anything. It was just too damn hot and humid. We did stop though at um, uh, Oklahoma City bombing site, and we did walk around there for a little while, take pictures and stuff. And we stopped at some of the locations where some of the accusers uh, said that things happened, and I was able to get a few still shots. But most of the pictures we got were driving. We were like moving, so it's
Video.
hard to get.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, just video. And so that picture that I did show of Northeast 50th and Lincoln was a screenshot from a video I had been taking. So anyway, we
Almost
had a great
all of
time.
them, almost all of them took place in, just this one corner of
Yeah,
Oklahoma City, a neighborhood.
yeah,
A lot of them were not far from each other. It was Daniel's area that he
yeah.
patrolled. So, yeah.
And again, very small, narrow streets. So small. And I'm not used to that where I live, or at least, I mean, there are streets like that, of course, but in the
And
exact
just
area where I live, aren't we have bigger streets?
mostly just very small, modest homes. Um, yeah, just one after the
Yeah,
other.
yeah,
Streets were
that's right.
lined with houses
Yeah,
where,
very, very close together.
numerous people could see a cop sexually assaulting a woman.
Right. Or getting a blowjob or whatever, whatever they were, they claimed. So we'll get into all of the details. We'll get into more details with Jannie Ligons' story too, um, as we move forward. Um,
They're
but
insane.
because,
The
yeah,
stories are just insane.
there.
How he
When we
ever
say
got convicted.
unbelievable, we mean literally unbelievable. Like the stories are just unbelievable, almost impossible to believe.
For God's
So
sake, he got convicted for a woman that said her attacker was a short black cop.
yeah.
And Daniel is, 6 what? 6'2"?
6'2", 250 or 60 pounds at the time. Yeah. Body,
Yeah,
bodybuilder.
Japanese American, very light skinned. Yeah.
Now, to just say, Jannie Ligons said, although Jannie Ligons, there's no question that it was Daniel that stopped her, but what is weird is that she claims that the cop that stopped her and assaulted her was short, stocky, had blonde hair. You guys, Daniel has dark, almost black hair, really dark brown hair, and that his skin was not smooth. It looked like was, scarred from acne or
Acne.
something. Yeah. So her description was way off, but it's not a matter of misidentification of an officer because we know that it was him. He admits it was him, and he talks about it and he details that stop in his interrogation. So she said he had blonde hair. Okay, whatever. And as we go on, you'll hear an excuse for why she probably said his hair was blonde. You're not going to believe it, but we're not going to tell you right now. You're going to have to come back.
Kim Davis.
So, yeah. Yeah. How long has Daniel been in prison? He was convicted on his birthday, which was December 10th, 2015. So he's just passed what, 8 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, 8 years. He just passed the 8-year mark. Yes, I had to count on
A
my
long
fingers because
time. A long time
too
for an
long.
innocent man to put up with
Too
that
long.
kind of life.
Yeah. And it's not easy too. It's not easy going into prison. A former cop. So there's that as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen. Feel free to jump into Daniel's Truth Discord and ask questions, or DM any of us with questions. There's a room in Foul Play for Daniel Holtzclaw. I have a room in Foul Play, and I usually post all my upcoming videos there. And but we are happy to answer questions if you come up with questions as the week goes by.
There is one thing, Rhonda, that I just recalled regarding Jannie Ligons. She actually went to the press. How soon after?
Oh yes,
Just a few days.
Excuse me. Yes. So yeah, the detectives had told her, we're investigating this. It's going to take us some time, but we're investigating this, and don't don't give any interviews, don't talk to the press, don't make anything public right now. Let us do our investigation. And 4 days after the alleged assault, she went and gave a interview to one of the local news stations in shadow, and made all of the allegations.
Daniel wasn't named at that time, but
No.
made the allegations that she had been sexually assaulted by
an Oklahoma City police officer. And everything about her story was a lie, except for that she had been pulled over by an Oklahoma City police officer. Everything else about that was a lie. So she's gross. And just so Jamie didn't have the same type of history as the other accusers did. She didn't have like a sexual, like prostitution records or
drugs.
She didn't really have drug charges. She basically, a lot of her charges had to do with driving without a license and uninsured, and her on again, off again boyfriend Richard Long were sued many, many times for not paying rent in an apartment or things like that. So they were sued and in and out of court. But she does have a criminal record history that starts popping up not too long after this trial. So now I don't remember the exact years, but I want to say 62. We've already told you guys that there was no DNA, no evidence, no fingerprints on the vehicle, nothing regarding Jannie Ligons' stop that would implicate Daniel in the allegations she made. None of it. She still got a guilty return. He still found guilty on her charge and received, I believe, 62 years. With nothing. She had nothing. And it's just disgusting. And when I show you Dr. Silkman's the page that he made and point out to you exactly how, exactly what refers to her, you'll be surprised. And when you listen to his presentation, you're going to be surprised, I think. I know I was. I really was. So, and it's Dr. Silkman. I mean, he explains these things easily, to make it easier for us to understand. So, okay. So we're going to let you go way before the 3-hour mark tonight. Yay. And we'll definitely talk about more details next week as we dive deeper into the Jannie Ligons accusation. So, with that being said, I will ask Alice, do you have any final comments on this Jannie Ligons BS?
It's BS. Yeah, I don't understand how Daniel even got convicted of that. Never mind getting 62 years or whatever it was he got for her. Like you said, no evidence, no nothing. But then that comes down to the shady prosecutors as well, and this new immunity. I think if that was gone and they were going to start getting held accountable, get their pensions taken away from them, get barred, basically get their livelihood taken away from them, some of them might reconsider about what they're actually doing. So that's my thoughts on it. Thank you again for having us on the panel. I think it's great that we're kind of going back a wee bit just to give newcomers and things like that. You know, what's the word I'm looking for? A progress from, you know, beginning up until where we are now, sort of thing, so that they can get the just of the timeline and everything like that. So I think what you're doing just now with the podcast and everything like that is good. It's a good break from the transcripts, so that when we do get back into the transcripts, you know, we're not going to be like, oh my god, no again, do we have to take Gigger? You know, so thank you for what you're doing, Rhonda, and I look forward to what you have for us for next week.
Well, thank you, Alice. It's all of us. It's not just me. It's all of us. So, and certainly Kay and Cherie, you know, helping with documents and stuff for sure. So, it's all of us taking care of it and doing it. So, even having you on the panel is also, you know, help. So, I appreciate you as well. And Susan, you have some final comments?
Yeah, I really, Rhonda, I really think you're doing a great job going back, starting over, giving an overview, because it seems to me like we have a few people interested that haven't been following along for too long. So great effort. Good job. And yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, Susan. And I must say, also meeting Susan, Cherie and I have already known each other for a few years, but meeting Susan as well this past summer was like, it was a really special experience meeting her as well.
Like a
Yeah,
treat.
it's really cool.
Like a summer treat.
It really was.
It was.
It really was.
It was an awesome trip. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just great all around.
Can't wait to do it again. Thank you, Susan.
Mhm.
And Sir Jack, any final comments with your raspy
Ah.
little voice?
I have to agree with Susan. I think it's a good thing to start at the beginning, start over. You know, this is what kicked the whole thing off, and you know, then detective. I use that term loosely. Detectives Bullwinkle and Blinker. And I guess Allie probably hasn't watched Murder Daniel in the Den and seen the interview with you know Kim Davis. Jesus Christ. You know, just the exposure to these different detectives and what they did. A lot of it we don't know exactly what happened because they didn't reveal it. We can speculate, of course, but and we're forced to. But yeah, I think it's good to start back at the beginning, especially for people that really haven't been involved in the case. And it is a horrible, horrible case. It needs a documentary to get it out there to push forward. Even if they, I mean, talk to both sides. I want them to get their take too. So it's a more balanced kind of thing. Get them on camera saying what they're, you know, could potentially say. Of course, some of these people are gone. They're not around anymore. But nonetheless, it needs that kind of exposure to show the public a lot of what the state did. And I just, God, it's awful. Again, it's as bad or, and in many cases, worse than the Avery and Dassey cases, to me. Thank you. Done a great job, Rhonda. I agree.
Oh, well, thank you. It's like I said,
Yeah,
it's not just me.
Rhonda,
So
you were just saying to Ali about watching the interview. No, remember what she needs to do. She needs to watch the interview with Michelle Malkin, and then watch the interview that she did with somebody else, and you can see the difference, because with the Michelle Malkin one, it's like she's anxious, she doesn't know what's coming, sort of thing. So she's blinking a lot and she lies. But in the other one, because she's in like more comfortable surroundings and everything like that, she doesn't blink as much in it. And that's what I picked on, and that's why we ended up calling her Blinky, because of just the contrast and the difference. And it just goes to show you just how different people's reactions can be when they think they're under pressure or in a sticky situation or anything like that, compared to, a relaxed setting and everything like that. Their demeanor and everything like that all changes.
right.
Hey,
Yes.
yeah, I apologize for butting in, but I need to jump out of here.
Okay. All right. Well,
All
thanks,
righty.
Jack.
Well,
Take care of your
yeah,
voice and take care of yourself. And yeah, we're
Okay.
gonna
absolutely,
we're gonna skedaddle too. So you guys have
absolutely.
Take
got
care,
some
Jack.
homework to do, and uh, hopefully you'll have some questions. I know you'll have
Hey,
comments, but hopefully you'll have
be
questions
sure,
when we come back
be,
next week.
be sure to plug me for tomorrow. You know what's coming. Your favorite.
Oh God. Ugh, no, Jack, you can plug it. Okay, never mind. I'll plug it. Jack's
I got to
gonna
jump.
play.
I got to jump. I'll
Bye,
catch y'all
Jack.
later.
Bye, Jack. Good night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
Jack is going to play more Jody calls tomorrow.
Ugh.
So I know it's been horrible.
5 o'clock.
But I believe 5 o'clock Central. Yes. So it never ends. All of the ughs and the oh my God, and Jody is a horrible person. She's horrible. I hate her so much more than I did
She's
before.
devious.
Oh,
She's
she's
devious for
so
sure.
very devious, very devious. Yeah, thank you so much, Liam, for reminding everybody to like this video and subscribe and share. I really appreciate that. So I guess if there's nothing further, we will meet back here next Thursday at 5 p.m. Central. And till then, peace out.